So I wanted to start tonight with it's really just a reading from Lao Tzu, but it's what is it? It's in modern English. I'll put it that way. This is it. Always we hope someone else has the answer. Some other place will be better. Some other time, it will all turn out. This is it. No one else has the answer. No other place will be better. And it has already turned out. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want. There is no need to go outside for better seeing, nor to peer from a window. Rather, abide at the center of your being. For the more you leave it, the less you learn. A little Lao Tzu to kind of keep us on track here. So tonight, actually, I wanted to talk about compassion, but it's very interesting. It was about 4 days ago, the smoke came and blanketed everything. And, I'm in a house, I have, kind of AC and all this stuff. And I was watching the deer and the squirrels and how much they must be affected by these terrible fires. And I was thinking about this story in the Jataka Tales, which is of this little parrot. And this little parrot, there was a forest fire, and the little parrot, it always touches me, saw his friends being damaged from the fire. And so he would fly into the river, and with the little water on his wings, he would come and flap that water on the fire. And he just kept at it over and over and over and over. And they say Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion, saw this little bird that was just, so much wanting to save its friends. And in that, the Bodhisattva then created rainstorm, which then ended the fire. But the parrot was actually one of the past lives, these 900 lives of the Buddha, that his compassion for beings was so great that this parrot was, there are many Jataka tales of example of this possibility of the energy of wanting to save or help beings, this bodhisattva ideal, which is bodhisattva is one who is awake, as translation. But it's tough because when you talk about this, you have to talk about, that the world is what? There's a great, one of the sermons of the Buddha, it's called the Fire Sermon. And I'm going to read it to you, but it's actually important because it's what it's saying. Everything is burning. The eye is burning. The visible sights are burning. The ears and the sounds they hear are burning. The nose, the tongue, the body, and mind. With what fires are they burning? With fires of greed, of hate, of ignorance, burning with anxiety and jealousy and loss and decay and grief. Considering this suffering, a follower of the way becomes weary of the fires, weary of greed and of hate that fuel the grasping of sights, sounds, smells, tastes, body, or mind. Being weary, one divests oneself of this grasping. By the absence of this grasping, one becomes free. So, the first piece of this is we have to acknowledge the consequences. And I think you can do this on so many levels of just human suffering, and it is again and again perpetuated by ignorance and greed and grasping. And so our practice here is actually, it's not that we're going to necessarily, all become saints or something. That'd be nice. But, we're just kind of working with these forces. And these forces are, there's the in the sense of the fire sermon, there's the kind of the harshness of it. And we see that in the world of how much whether it's I remember reading somewhere there was there's a minimum of 127 wars going on in the world. And then we're sitting in this, this is not an epidemic, this is a pandemic. It's different. It's touching all sorts of people. And I talked to people in Thailand and just they've had a really hard time because the government couldn't get it together to get vaccines for them. And, so there is this, and maybe a lot of it, there's a lot of problems with this, but there's a lot of fear. And that fear then creates its own, I read about it of people having fights on airplanes. And the repercussions of this not seeing is creating such tremendous amounts of suffering. And yet at the same time, here we come together in this ideal kind of situation, which I do say it's ideal, in the sense of here is a group of people who are trying to dedicate themselves to the minimizing or elimination of this greed, hatred, and delusion, but you have to know it to actually let go of it. And that's kind of the tricky part of it. I could say probably in every one of your stories, there is suffering in your past. And I know mine, I have tremendous amounts of particularly early suffering that helped me, it gave me some sense of, it's not all about me, but it took sometimes some very difficult situations that, and I wasn't always proud of my reaction to them. But the fact was that this is it. If you learn from those particular situations, then they become actually a sense of, I could say it was a gift, but it's a power. And the power is that one sees the consequences of greed, hatred, and delusion. And those are big words. And obviously for us, these are much subtler things that are going on. They maybe aren't so big, but they still are creating the same, what is it? It creates that identity which comes out of the greed, hatred, and delusion. That identity creates the suffering. And so part of our practice here is being able to recognize and see this identity And, sometimes it's taken, I suspect, great suffering that have engulfed us in some way. It's kind of like I was thinking about the creatures out here with all this smoke, I mean, um, they can't, they're caught in it. They can't do anything about it. They're just there. And, I have protection from that. And so in a sense, I can't, they wouldn't come in the house anyway, but it's just that noticing, that we are these very vulnerable creatures. I mean, the fact that, this river fire was not that far away, and it was interesting to watch the plume, the smoke. And I know that, there's the Dixie fire, which is just, I mean, it's horrendous, and so we have all the messages here, they're all right there. And I hope that, the ideals here is that somehow, you know, um, that because of these things that are happening, and this is a world situation, is that it can begin to soften the heart, And that's really what I was pointing at tonight was that, there is this thing called compassion, which is, it simply means one is aware of the consequences of living, and it's, okay, there are fires here, big fires, but there's wars, there's, all sorts of, I was thinking below rockets or whatever that's going on, that's there always kind of, it's, sometimes it's not in the background, it's in the foreground. And we can kind of, I mean, part of it is denial. I see that in myself. I go, oh my gosh, I live over the Huber River Canyon, and I've been here 34 years, and back when I came, we didn't think this way, but now this is a place where a firestorm would just take everything out, And so there's always this sense of, it's like having your go bag here in California. And that's one of the things, we have our go bag. And sometimes I just forget about it. It's there in back of my mind. And then this kind of thing kind of comes and it retouches, And I was thinking, oh, it would be so hard to lose the physical, comforts of being here. And I know it would bring something else, though, and that I think, I know, I can see Rosanna there, lost your house in there, Chico in the Paradise Fire there, and other people, maybe some of you have lost. And this is, I mean, it can be terrible, and there can be no learning from it. And there also can be the fact that, what I'm hoping is in some sense that we understand the preemptive truth of suffering. It's going to come, old age, sickness, and death are a promise. And maybe you can skip some of the, maybe you just have a heart attack or, die in your sleep. But probability is you won't, I mean, a few do. And I certainly would love to be one of those. But there's also the other side of this, that you may end up getting old. And I can see this in my body already, just to sometimes, getting out of the pool or something. I'm like, oh my God. It's not like it was, and can I, there's part of me, I'm a great denial. I think all of us have this, I can deny, oh, I can't do that, or this is, I'm not as agile or as I'm not young, You know? I mean, I never thought I'd live to 75. If you guys knew what I'd done in my life, some of the from the mountains and caves to that I have put and 12 years in Asia put my poor guts through my body, and but it also has brought me a lot of appreciation that you know that I can say that, and I hope this is one of the things about aging that is a gift, is that it brings a sense of kindness to yourself, but also kindness to others, because others are also, if they haven't right now, they will, if they're lucky enough to stay alive long enough, that they will. So, there's, I was going to start out with this. Now I took off on a little bit something else, but that's okay. There is the 4 reminders, which I will bring up to you. One is just, a precious human birth is the first one, and I think, a lot of times it's like everything, we kind of take things for granted. But it's like the deer out there, precious human birth, whether it's an ant or an elephant, it's still this gift of going through this process with these senses. And this, I don't know about elephants, but I would think, I don't think awareness is exclusive to humans, And I think that when they talk about, you read in some of the old Zen stories, I actually totally believe this, is that, when a person becomes awakened, that all things become awakened, the trees and the rocks and the flowers and the deer, everything suddenly is that awakening. It is not something that's separate from, but it's actually suddenly becomes this incredible inclusiveness. So there's precious human birth. The second one, this has to do with so much of life, is the truth of impermanence, that all of this is some kind of transient thing, which, is in Buddhism, one of the things is the Buddha talks about it as to know the truth of impermanence is to have great happiness. Great happiness. Because again, what is it? Well, then there is just not attachment to particularly to anything. It's just like, oh, okay. Now I'm just readjusting to what's there. It's hard sometimes, if my house burned down, I guess I would have to go through this process, which I know Roseanne has gone through, but I don't want to go through it. But I also am aware that, where this is and what's going on, is there's a probability there, higher probability. And so it's actually a relief. I go, well, I could fix that, but I don't know whether it's worth fixing, because who knows how long any of this will be there. That's maybe the wrong attitude, but there is that sense of it kind of frees you up from the need for it to be a certain way, because we don't know what's there, So that's kind of a gift. And the kind of third one is the law of karma. And I think sometimes this can be misunderstood in some ways, because it just simply, it's simply saying that, I think it's really important in some sense that we look at our actions, that they are within a cyclic situation. So whatever we physically say or do has repercussions. And the thing that Buddha was good about is he said, it may not be immediate, and that he described it as a glass of water. And it depends on your kind of situation, which I think ours is more than the salt of water. And you put a teaspoon of salt in that, and that water is bitter. But you put that same spoon in the Ganges, and it doesn't affect the water. So this is why it's complicated in some ways, because we don't know what the situation is that we're in when a certain incident or things we say or do. I think it's so amazing. You can, be the kindest, nicest person in the world, and you can do an act, and that is either ignored or it's put back in your face. And it is really the fact that, it's this combination of things that we don't know, the kind of the mystery of things. And so even when we would expect good results, it doesn't always happen. Other times we may do something not so skillful, and it turns out great. So this is the thing. This is why karma is a little complicated in that way, but it makes sense, to me. And it's really, the biggest thing is about this whole thing of rebirth. I can't talk about reincarnation because I haven't been through that, so I don't know about that. But I do believe in rebirth, and rebirth is simply that somehow our actions are not in a vacuum. That they are, there is repercussions for all that we've done. And when I say that, and I think back to my early years and go, oh, I might get in trouble here. But the point is, I never tried to harm anybody, that's for sure. But I sure made a lot of mistakes. But I suspect everybody on this Zoom has made a lot of mistakes, and we're also, one of the things I know, one of the main things in Buddhism is about intention, that somehow so much is predicated on the fact that when there's good intention, it doesn't always work out. But that intention is really what created the vipaka, the result of, what you kind of were shooting for anyway, So that's the law of karma. So it's and then the fourth one is this, that we continue to wonder and wonder as a wanderer through this world and through coming worlds. Let's put it that way. That and that's really where this rebirth comes in some sense of like, okay, so we know our karma, we know how it works. We have seen that if we really keep to a good heart and good intention, that it is going to take care of itself, and you can't say how it works, unfortunately. But I think it's important. I always thought in my early days in Asia, living in Asia, I really believed in kind of rebirth in the sense that, I was living something I had somehow, and I didn't recognize a lot of it at the time, that I'd actually set the stage for that to happen. And I'm hoping that you understand that setting the stage now through and this is really where the whole bodhisattva ideals come in, that you set the stage through, it may be a phone call, it may be a gift to someone, it may be that there is something in our action that goes on beyond the immediacy of things, And I think it's a big deal. I think it's, that, even if, in some ways I could say this is kind of, well, even if it's not true, it's still a good thing to do, And I do believe it's true. And I also believe that, you know, as we care, and you know, I want to say about the caring is, you know, the first thing in all of this is caring for ourselves. You know, you are the most precious thing that has ever happened. You know, I mean, you are, in a sense, you are a collection of, yes, all the karmic situations and gifts or problems. But the fact that you are here and that you have this tremendous understanding of how things work. And yes, it is the, you know, it's precious being born. It's precious, you know, truly caring for yourself. And I don't mean this in some, you know, indulgent way, because that's easy, you know, and usually doesn't work out very well anyway. But it does when we see our capacity to serve or help others in some way, and that in itself gives us the impetus to understand these principles, you know. So it's really, you know, because we do, you know, I always think, oh my gosh, you know, if, you know, I don't know, I'm just thinking here, but, you know, I die and, you know, I go through this process and then, and I do believe I come back around, that my actions and my intention does come back around. And it may not be, you know, John, it may be Fred or Mary or something else. But the thing is that it still carries the seeds of the past. And so if we understand that, then it really helps us then to look a little closer at our intentions and our actions, because that's really ultimately what this is about. You know, and the word bodhisattva is an awakened being, but another language for it is the courageous heart, you know, that's willing to sometimes step into the muck, as the saying goes, you know. And I know that we're all a little afraid to step into that, and yet it's really where the kind of the power of a human being lies, you know. So I think, you know, I want to read that again, because I think it's so Lao Tzu. This is it. Always we hope someone else has the answer. Some other place will be better. Some other time it will all turn out. This is it. No one else has the answer. No other place will be better. It has already turned out. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want. There is no need to run outside for better seeing, nor peer from a window. Rather, abide at the center of your being. For the more you leave it, the less you learn. So if you have answers or, I don't know, questions, comments. Virginia, I see your hand.
Yeah. Hi, John.
Hi,
Can you
Virginia.
hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to share something that happened in the last week that just touched me deeply. And it sort of touches on some of this, the 4 reminders and what we spoke of. But my grandsons found 4 baby mice in the forest out by my house. And they were like only, a few days old. They were teeny tiny, less than the length of my finger. And their eyes weren't open, and, the ears weren't developed. And they're just such innocent, precious little beings. So the animal rescue place wouldn't take them. So I took them on to try to keep them alive. And so, my intention was to keep them alive. But, I fed them with a little eyedropper, puppy milk replacement. I did the research, but ultimately they didn't survive. So it's just like, I'm just trying to hold that there's some, I don't know that I was wholehearted in the caring, because it was like every 2 hours at night, and it was kind of a lot to add. So there's a little remorse for me that maybe I wasn't wholehearted enough in their care, but then there's something, I don't know why they didn't make it. I don't know if it was me, if there was their mouse karma, if, and it definitely was a lesson in impermanence, because they don't, they're kind of creatures that are food for a lot of other creatures, but there's a heartbreak in these little precious beings that were, left. And so I just wanted to share that. I'm a little heartbroken about it. So
I get it. Yeah.
okay.
No, it's a hard,
Mhm.
it's a harsh, that's the other reality here is it's a harsh world, and
Mhm.
it's like I was thinking about, this huge fire, the Dixie Fire, and about the deer and all the creatures that, we just see it from somebody's house burn, but we share here, we share this with all these. There's a bear down the hill there. There's, a mountain lion
Mhm.
and deer that hang out here, and the squirrels and all that. So, we're all part of something, but for them, they can't get in the car and and drive off. They're really stuck
Mhm.
with all that. And so I think that's where I started this, was the fact that, um, the fire sermon, it's our sense doors are all caught with, and all things are. So, it's great that you tried, and I think that's thanks to your grandson, and you don't know what you did for them, really. Could have been some little thing that maybe changed their next round. I mean, I know that's magical thinking, but I like that.
And just that I was just struck there, their preciousness was just like an innocence, and vulnerability was about as innocent and vulnerable as, well, all baby animals are like that, including humans. But that just broke my heart open. I could hold all 4 of them in my hand, and I mean, it doesn't come any more beautiful than that.
Well, it's,
So I just, my wish for them is they get reborn into the same mommy that they had before. So we'll see.
yeah. Please, Philip, is it? Yeah.
Yes, it's me. So John, I truly love and enjoy listening to your teachings and looking for the jewels that really, I'm trying to think of the word, what I came up with tonight was gong my heart. And I feel my chest resonating. And what you said tonight that really struck me and was going to give me food for thought for a while is, you said, when one is awakened, all things are awakened. And that just seems so huge and so big. And I almost don't have the words for it, but it just feels incredibly powerful. And what I'd like to ask you to elaborate on was the last sentence of that reading you did, the more you leave it, the less you learn. And I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that because I don't get it.
Okay. Well, what he meant was the more you leave it, the more you know it. Okay. Woo. All right. So there is the knowing or the awareness, and then there is our different sense doors and the things that we interpret from those sense doors. And he's just saying the more you leave it, the more you leave the awareness, the less you learn. And so are you following? It kind of goes back to the also what I was talking about in practice, the end part there is that we spend our lives chasing after sense doors and things. And this is saying we don't need to do that. We actually have it. We're already have it all here. And that if we can actually, in a sense, it's like turning the mind around on itself to know itself, then it no longer is caught in the senses which create the kind of the greed, and sometimes these are just the Buddhist terms: greed, hatred, and delusion. But I would say principally the delusion, because we are deluded creatures, you know. Every time that there's a moment where we see that and we awaken a little, then we have taken some of the, can I use the language, a little bit of the poison out of our experience, you know. And when we take the poison out of our experience, and that means that the kind of the disassembling somehow of that greed, hatred, and delusion, then what is left, you know? And as a little bit I was trying to get there tonight, and I'm going to take this on, Philip, is that when it's not there, there is this love. And that love is, you know, it's instinctual. It's not just the four little mice. It's every little thing here. So that awakening, all things are awakened. You know, so enlightenment in that way is not personal. It can't be personal. It's impersonal, and yet it includes all things. So actually everything was enlightened. And this is now, I'm taking one more step here. Everything is already enlightened. But we don't see it because we're always caught in this kind of dualistic mind that keeps, you know, saying we like it or dislike it, or we have to do something with it, or there's some manipulation going on there. So I don't know, Philip, that I'm just babbling.
Well, I think what really hit it for me was I was wondering what the it was in that sentence. And you touched on it in your explanation, and the word you used was awareness. And I really feel like that fits, because if you think of what awareness is, it encompasses everything you've been talking about and everything you've been saying. So I feel like now I get it. So thank you.
You're welcome. I talk around things a lot. And, you know, I really just want people to, in a sense, to get the enormity of who they are and how they're here, and that this is a temporal process, and that you can choose, you know, you actually can choose, which is kind of cool, you know, because we thought we didn't have choice, but we do have choice, you know.
So John, Karen has a question. So go ahead, Karen.
Where are you?
Um,
There
hi
you are.
there. Yeah, I just, it's not really a question, I don't think is, so I live kind of in the middle of the Dixie Fire, um, in Quincy, and Quincy has not been, we had evacuation warnings, but we haven't been evacuated. But my community is like in total grief and
Yeah.
total destruction all around. You know, some of my favorite places and one town just totally destroyed, Greenville. I mean, it's just destroyed. And so there's just so much, I mean, there's so much grief and shock in the community. And but also I guess the positive is that not everybody, but everybody that wants to figure out how they can help, you know, like this incredible compassion comes out. And so it's just, I guess I've never, you know, I've had a pretty easy life, you know, I would say. I've never really been in a community that is suffering like this one is. I mean, when I speak of community, I don't speak of, I think we kind of look at the whole area, the whole county, and also it's ripping through Lassen National Park. You know, it's ripping through, like, you know, it's just non-stoppable, basically. So anyway, I don't really have a question. I just, you know, I think having some Dharma practice is helpful, you know, to kind of feel the grief. And then I go to the administrative part and try to do what I think, you know, is helpful. So, so I don't know if you have any comments about that, but it's not really a question. I just wanted to share that.
Well, I just want to, you know, acknowledge the kind of the Quincy community that I have taught for many, many years ago, but I don't know what to say, you know, except for, you know, like all situations, can you use it in a way that kind of, instead of just towards fear, towards openness and kindness, you know, that's all.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think that's about all that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, I mean,
So thank you.
you're very welcome. And let's see here. I'm going to do a metta, and then we'll have a moment break there before Jen kind of speaks. So just taking a moment, first of all, and you know, I just thinking what Karen was talking about in Quincy, but just the enormity of the suffering. You know, yes, there are people and they lose their homes, and so far I don't know if any lives, but some injuries. But there's so many other things, you know, from trees to foxes to deer to that are totally traumatized by all this, you know. And we created it. This is the thing, you know. I mean, I've never seen this size of these things ever before. And so just taking a moment to recognize, first of all, just recognize the vulnerability of being a human being in this time in the 21st century, and just what's happening in the world, you know, whether it's the pandemic or whether it's the fires, or, you know, they're just, almost every community has some story. And that that we just bring our attention to our hearts, and just taking a moment to recognize that we do have this choice, either to fall into kind of a negativity or fear or some kind of reactivity, or there's a thing of, oh, this is the truth, and can it actually affect, and that's really what I meant by the bodhisattva ideals, of bring some really open-heartedness to your experience. And I'm sorry that it has to come through these the suffering, but that is the way it is, you know. And that we can begin to just bring our hearts, you know. And I want you just to start with yourself. You know, you are the most precious, you know, this precious human life. And, you know, it's not about big things, it's about the little things, you know, the little kindnesses that we do. And so just to honor yourself, honor this gift of this awareness, no matter how caught up it gets in all of the some of the tragedy, but also some of the excitement of being here, you know, the gift of it, you know. And that as you kind of work with your own heart, then you have this capacity, you know. I have that line, metta phrase that I use, may I live with an open heart. May I live with an open heart. May whatever covers my heart be dissolved. May whatever covers my heart be dissolved. And then just from this, from your heart, through your body, through the whatever, where you're sitting, your environment right there, to extend this great wish out to beings that they may benefit from our time together, our practice. Some words helped, or just maybe having a bit of reprieve or silence for ourselves. And that may we ultimately be a vessel for this, for beings, that we may bring some kind of, maybe it's sometimes, maybe it's simple as a word called hope, or which is not a Buddhist word, but, you know, or solace, or a sense of comfort, a sense of fearlessness to our community and our families, our friends, so that we can live in peace. Again, if there's any merit or power that's created through our coming together, it is ultimately for the benefit of beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere be happy.